Data gathering. This chapter introduces the topic, which is the data gathering. It sets the stage for understanding various methods used to collect information that will support research, design, or evaluation in a project. Data gathering is essential because it helps researchers understand users, their needs, behaviors, and contexts. This lesson aims to discuss how to plan and run a successful data gathering program, enable you to plan and run an interview, enable you to design a simple questionnaire, and lastly, enable you to plan and carry out an observation. This lesson has 5 key issues. First is setting goals. Decide how to analyze data once collected, which means define what information you want to collect and determine how you will analyze it later. Second is identifying participants. Decide who you should gather data from, people who best represent your target group. Example, students, teachers, and etc. Relationship with participants. Maintain professionalism, ensure ethical standards, and obtain informed consent when necessary. Fourth is triangulation, using multiple data sources or methods to improve accuracy and reliability. Example, combining interviews and observations. And lastly, a pilot studies, running a small trial version of your main study to detect problems and improve the procedure before actual data collection. In this picture, which is a consent form from University of Maryland, the purpose of this form is to invite participants to their research. This form explains what the participant is being asked to do and what will happen when the information they provide. Next is a smiliometer gauge for early readers. Smiliometer is a tool designed for young or early readers to express their feelings or preferences using smiley faces. This is helpful for gathering data from children who may not be able to answer complex questions. Data recording. Data recording explains different methods of recording during research, like notes, audio recordings, video recordings, and photographs. It highlights that this can be combined in various ways, like audio plus photos, notes plus photos, and that each combination has its own advantages and challenges. The goal is to gather accurate and rich data. Interviews. Interviews has different types. First is unstructured. No script, very flexibility, and rich in detail but inconsistent across participants. Second is structured. Highly scripted like a questionnaire, easier to replicate but may lack depth. Third is semi-structured, which is mix of both, follows a guide but allows follow-up questions, provides both consistency and richness. And lastly, a focus group. Interviews conducted with a group of participants instead of individuals, allowing shared discussions.
Interview questions. We have two types interview questions here. Number one is closed questions. Have a predetermined answer format. For example, is yes or no. Number two is open questions. Do not have a predetermined format. Questions with a limited predetermined answer yes or no multiple choices. Like for example, do you use a password manager? So yes or no. And the open questions is questions with no predetermined answer. The participation answer freely. For example, is how do you usually keep track of your passwords? So closed questions are easier to analyze. So next, interview questions. Avoid. So we have 5 questions that you want to avoid according the interview. So we have Long questions. Compound sentence split theme into two. Jargon and language that the interview may not understand. Leading questions that make assumption. For example, why do you like? The last is unconscious biases. For example, the gender stereotypes. Running the interview. We have the introduction. So first, introduce yourself, explain the goal of the interview, be sure about the ethical issues, ask to record, present the informed consent form, warm up. Make first question easy and not threatening. Main body, present question in a logical order. The next one is a call off period. Include a few easy questions to diffuse tension at the end. The last one is closure. Think interview signal the end. For example, switch, recorder off. Next, enriching the interview process. Device bar. Prompting interview. For example, we use a prototype scenario. Like, the slide describe how to make the interview more effective and engaging. Like using props. Props are objects or visual tools used to help interviews understand questions better. Next, the questionnaires. Questions can be closed or open. Closed questions are easier to analyze and may be distributed and analyzed by computer. Can be administered to large populations, disseminated by paper, email, and the web. Sampling can be a problem when the size of a population is unknown, as is common online evaluation.
Questionnaire design. The impact of a question can be influenced by question order. You may need different versions of the questionnaire for different populations. Provide a clear instructions on how to complete the questionnaire. Strike a balance between using white space and keeping the questionnaire compact. Avoid very long questionnaires. Decide on whether phrases will all be positive, all negative, or mixed. A well-designed questionnaire uses clear instructions, a clean layout, and the right question order. Keep it short, adjust versions for different groups, and choose whether items are all positive, all negative, or mixed. Question and response format. These must have yes and no checkboxes. Checkboxes that offer many options. Rating scales, Likert scales, and semantic scales. This also must have 3, 5, 7, and or more points. And last, open-ended responses. Like we see in the photo, questioner can use different response formats, such as yes or no options, multiple choice, checkboxes, rating, Likert, and semantic scales. The point scales like 3, 5, or 7 points. They can also include open-ended questions for more detailed answers. Encouraging a good response. Make sure purpose of study is clear. Promise anonymity. Ensure questionnaire is well designed. Offer a short version for those who do not have time to complete a long questionnaire. If mild, include a stamp address envelope. Follow up with emails, phone calls, letters. Provide an incentive. 40% response rate is good, 20% is often acceptable. And now, advantages of online questionnaires. Relatively easy and quick distribute. Responses are usually received quickly. No copying and post-page cost. Data can be collected in database base for analysis. Time required for data analysis is reduced. Errors can be corrected easily. Online questionnaires are fast and easy to distribute, cost little, and provide quick responses. Data goes straight into the database, making analysis faster and allowing errors to be fixed easily. This is the example of an online questionnaire. Like we see in the photo, this shows an online questionnaire using checkboxes, radio buttons, and text fields to collect information in a clear, organized way. Problems with online questionnaires. Sampling is problematic if population size is unknown. Preventing individuals from responding more than once can be a problem. Individuals have also known to change questions in online or email questionnaires.
Now, I move on the observation section. Observation is a method where we watch users in order to understand how they actually behave, not just what they say they do. We can observe people directly in their real environment, like their workplace or home. We can also observe them in a controlled setting, such as lab, where conditions are the same for everyone. There are also indirect methods like using diaries, activity logs, or tracking tools that record what users do over time. All of these methods help us discover real behaviors, habits, and challenges that users may not mention in interviews or questionnaires. This slide shows a more detailed framework from Robson. It expands the three parts model into several categories such as space, what this environment looks like, actors, who is present, activities, what people are doing, objects, what items are being used, acts, small specific actions, events, whether something special is happening, time, the order and timing of events, goals, what people are trying to achieve, and feelings, the mood of individuals or the group. Using these frameworks help us capture a complete picture of the situation instead of focusing on just one part. Next, we plan how to collect the data. We decide what kind of data we need, such as notes, photos, or videos. We also choose what equipment to use, maybe a notebook, a camera, or an audio recorder. Another key decision is knowing when to start and stop observing. Good planning ensures that the observation runs smoothly and gives us useful results. Finally, this slide introduces ethnography. Ethnography is a research approach where the observer immerses themselves in the culture or group they are studying. They can involve long-term participation, interviews, and continuous data collection. Ethnographers may take the role of either an outsider or an insider, depending on what they are studying. The process can take time because understanding grows slowly as patterns and behaviors become clearer, and in the end, ethnography helps searchers understand users on a deeper and more meaningful level.
Also, ethnography is a cooperation of people being observed and is required. Environments are useful data analysis continuous interpretive technique. Question get refined as understanding grows. Reports usually contain example. So when we see the ethnography, it's a research approach where the researcher immerses in the culture to understand it. It uses techniques like participant observation, interviews, artifact collection with the continuously analysis, and cooperation from participants. Unlike simple observation, ethnography interprets meaning and refines question as insight grow. Example, a researcher join online gaming community, play with members, and interviews them. They notice players uses phrases like GGS, not just as long, but a ritual that builds group identity. So let's go for online ethnography. So online ethnography, it is a virtual ethnography, online offline activity. Interaction online differs from face to face. Virtual worlds have a persistence that physical worlds do not have. Ethnical consideration and presentation of result are different. So when you say kuno, online ethnography or ethnography studies culture and communities in virtual spaces. It looks at both online and offline activity. Nothing that online interaction differ from face-to-face ones.
virtual worlds versus beyond physical meetings, and researcher must handle ethics and reporting differently when studying digital environment. So when we say kuno online ito, example, I a researcher joined a Facebook parenting group. They observe how parents share advice, collect posts and comments, and notice that discussion remain visible for months, unlike fleeting conversation offline. Their report includes example of recurring phrases parents use to build trust, showing how online culture develops over time. So that's the online ethnography. So the difference of ethnography and online ethnography is a research done by immersing in a physical culture or community using observation, interviews, and artifacts. So an online ethnography naman or ethnography, research focus on virtual communities, studying online interaction, posts, and digital artifacts with unique ethnical unreporting consideration. And let's go for observation and materials that might be collected from 3 of 2007. So, when we say kuno observation, it's a activity or job description, rules and procedure that govern particular activities, description of activities observed, recordings of the talking place between parties, informal interviews with participants explaining the detail of observed activities, diagram of physical layout, including the position of artifacts, and also other information collected when observing activities, photograph of artifacts, observation of materials that may be collected. Hub 3, it is observation and material can be collected to understanding how people work and interact. These include activity description, rules, interview, recording, diagram, photos, video, and workflow maps. Together, they help researchers see not just what people do, but how and why they do it. Example, a researcher studying hospital and staff night, recording conversation between nurses during shift changes, collecting workflow diagram using how information moves from admission to discharge, take photo of charge and computers used. This combination of materials reveals both the processes and the tools shaping everyday hospital work.
So now, let's go to observation in a controlled environment. Direct observation, think aloud techniques, and indirect observation, tracking users' activities. And it includes diaries, interaction logs, web analytics, video, audio, photos, notes are used to capture data in both types of observation. So this slide explains observation inside a control room while you guide a user through a task. You watch their actions closely, you record what they say and what they do. This setup helps you study your behavior without outside distractions. For example, you invite a classmate to use the school website in a computer lab. You stay nearby and note each step they take. Then, web analytics. Web analytics is a tools and techniques for optimizing web usage by measuring, collecting, analyzing, reporting web data. Typically, focus on the number of web visitors and page views. Then, it covers direct and indirect observation about how you use a think aloud approach. You ask the user to talk while they work, you listen to their thoughts in real time. This gives you insight into their decisions and problems. Just like, for example, a friend explores an app while saying every action. Indirect observation tracks activities through logs, diaries, or recordings. You review the data later. This study helps you track their behavior over a longer period. For example, a website collects click logs. You study those logs to understand usage patterns. Then, let's go to the next slide, which is a section of Google Analytics dashboard for idbook.com. This slide introduces Web Analytics. Web Analytics tools measures and analyze activity on a website. They show visitor numbers, page views, and user behavior. These metrics help you understand which parts of the site gets the most attention. For example, this dashboard tells you that a specific page drew 200 visits in one day. Then, choosing and combining techniques. It usually depends on the focus of the study, participant involved, nature of the techniques, resources available, and time available, which use the previous data Google Analytics dashboard. It displays a visitor counts, traffic sources, top pages, user behavior over time. You study these numbers to understand how people use a site. For example, you see that most of the visitors reach the site through search engines. Then, about this slide, these slides contain how you select and combine techniques. Your choice depends on your goal, participants, the method you want to use, your resources, and your available time. Each study needs a different approach. Just like for examples, if your participants have a limited time, you need to select a quick online questionnaires. If you need a deeper insight, you schedule a short interview session. And here, so in this slide also, which shows how the technique, what it is good for, kind of data, advantages and disadvantages. For interviews, it is good for exploring issues and the kind of data, some quantitative but mostly quantitative. Interviewer can, and the advantages is the interviewer can guide interview if necessary, encourages contact between developers and users. Also, the disadvantages of interviews is it's also time consuming. Artificial environment may intimidate interviewee. And for the focus groups, it is good for collecting viewpoints. The kind of data that you can collect is some quantitative, but mostly it is qualitative. And the advantages of this is that you can highlight areas of consensus and conflict, encourages contact between developers and users. And this disadvantages of focus group is the possibility of dominant characters. And the technique questionnaires is also good for answering specific questions. And the kind of data is the quantitative and qualitative. Advantages: you can reach many people with low resource. The disadvantages only is the design is quite crucial and response rates may be kinda low. So unless carefully designed, the responses may not be provide suitable data. Also, the direct observation in the field, understand context of user activity. Mostly it is qualitative, and the advantages are observing gives insight other than techniques that don't give. And the disadvantages is very time consuming, which is giving huge amounts of data are produced. And also, the direct observation in a controlled environment, also good for capturing the detail of what individuals can do. It can provide quantitative and qualitative data. and it can focus on the details of a task without interruption. Only the downside is the result may have a limited use in the normal environment because the conditions were artificials. Also, the last one is the indirect observation. It is good for observing users without disturbing their activity. Data captured automatically, and it can provide quantitative, which is logging, and the quantitative, which is the diary. And advantages: user doesn't get distracted by the data gathering. Automatic recording means that it can extend over a long period of time. Disadvantages only is that a large amount of quantitative data needs tool to support analyzing, lagging. Participants memorize may exaggerate. And onto the next one is the summary of all of these slides. And we have the data gathering section should have at least clear goals. An informed consent may be needed if you were going to ask some questions about research. And the 5 key issues of data gathering are goals, choosing participants, triangulation, participant relationship, and pilot. Data may be recorded using handwritten notes, audio or video recording, a camera, or any combination of these. And the interviews may be structured, semi-structured, or unstructured. Focus groups are group interviews. Questionnaires may be on paper, online, or telephone. Observation may also be direct or indirect in the field or in controlled settings. Techniques can be combined depending on the study, focus, participants, and the nature of technique available, resources, and time. And that's all for today. Thank you.